October 30th, 2018's MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. Goes, that's Dan, that's John. Voice you hear in your head, that's Danny Okers. I can't concentrate because I want to.
You're trying to laugh right now.
He went to this concert. Killing me. And George
you got 2 minutes to fill everybody in.
So he can't back me up. I want to say Daniela was there. I know you were there before me because I got there. You were like up in the front.
I hope you're thinking because this would be really fun.
You have such a vivid memory of this that like now I'm like doubting my own recollection of my own life.
Well, because what I remember about that night was afterwards they have this like terrace out there, and the gentleman that invited us took us out to that terrace and was like, maybe had a little bit to drink. Right. Was telling us a lot of like just cool behind the scenes stuff that we were still geeking out on.
Coming up in a minute.
And I do remember that when you disappeared, you just disappeared.
Okay, now that does sound like me. That very much.
That's kind of like one of those like, I don't know, what do you think, John?
That also sounds like
gone.
That is me. When it's time to go, it's time to go.
That also sounds like a scene from Wayne's World. We were talking to this nice construction character who gave us all the plans for the. I think that sounds like a very familiar scene from a movie. Just now that you just laid out too, as well goes. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I'm starting to doubt myself, but I really don't think I was ever there. Meanwhile, I'm mired in ranking stuff over here, man. Anthony Smith at 15. Seems harsh.
Oh wow! I thought he'd be taking a bigger jump.
I did too. That's why I was looking at maybe 13.
Okay, so he sends this. And he says, I do believe I had a cocktail or two that night.
That's funny. When the hell was that? When was it?
I don't know. Let's see. It was...
All right, guys. Coming up. Stand by.
I gotta look this up. Oops, sorry.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Sitting to my far right, it's John Morgan, former Journalist of the Year. And, of course, Danny Otto will produce back east like he always does. What's up, guys?
What's going on, man?
John Morgan?
I was about to say, I didn't know where we were going with that one.
I like John Morgan.
It's Tuesday, guys. October 30th, one day before Halloween. Anybody got plans, or did you guys go costuming parties or anything like that?
No big plans, man. You know, I'm just gonna keep it kind of low key. Take the little man out for a little while. We did. Anybody that's got kids, I'm just gonna throw this out there. We took the kid, maybe like 2 weeks ago. Took him to Disneyland. They have like a Halloween party. So much fun, man. It was awesome. Dude came home with like 10 pounds worth of candy too. It was insane, but it was a lot of fun. So it was cool. So we kind of lived it up, did that, keep it kind of low key this week.
How about you guys?
I don't think I'm gonna do anything this
I was
year.
close to going to a costume party last minute. Did you go to anything?
No, I actually got a couple invites, but I did, for Halloween being my favorite holiday, I've not dressed up in like the last 10 years. I was thinking of, parlaying this into a bowling glove, maybe getting a purple bowling suit, being, Jesus Quintana from The Big Lebowski, but But no, nothing to that. I did get some candy, though, to hand out to kids. But my mom did that thing. I don't know if you guys get this backhanded compliment from, mothers, significant others, or otherwise, where they do something nice for you, but it's kind of like a backhanded compliment because it's kind of like they know you're irresponsible and you aren't going to think about it. So she's like, oh, yeah, I got, this water you wanted and this and that. And, oh, here's some candy for the kids there to come around for Halloween. I'm like, thanks for thinking about it. But then I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm irresponsible, and I forget things. That's right.
I wouldn't have handled it.
What's the most bullshit thing you guys have ever gotten as a kid on Halloween? I got an apple.
I was going to say, I hate it when people give fruit. I mean, I get the sentiment, and in retrospect, it was probably a nice thing to do, but
I got a little water like this.
Yeah.
But the most bullshit thing I ever got was a toothbrush.
A toothbrush?
Yeah, and it was just the lady. I think they were probably like dentists or something. They were like, make sure you brush your teeth after all this candy.
I remember when I was a little kid, because I didn't grow up in the greatest of areas, but not too far from us there was like a nice neighborhood that we would all go to because the people there handed out like full-size candy bars. That was always like the big thing. Like, oh, you gotta go over there, bro. They got the full-size candy bars.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to where like I was at the age where we get on rollerblades and go just skate around in neighborhoods and go hit up houses before there was all the child predators around. Well, there probably were, but we didn't. They weren't as advertised, so we would roam free. And I didn't have any weird experiences, thankfully, with candy or anything handouts. Except like the music teacher for our junior high school, he was weird. He would make the kids like do a song and dance if they wanted candy, and he would only give out giant Abba Zaba bars. I think he was a pervert.
Abba Zaba.
What's an Abba Zaba bar?
I don't know. It was really this weird chewy bar, and I remember like Dave Chappelle talking about it in that movie. What was the? I forget, but I've only seen or had one once, and it was this guy who would only strictly hand out giant size Abba Zaba bars.
The only thing I can think of is I don't know what the brand is, but it's in the shape of like a square, I guess, and it's a hard piece of bubble gum you just roll up. It's supposed to be one of those that you can blow bubbles with. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's really cheap. And I just remember one year getting it and
Bazooka
just
Joe.
biting into it, and I think I almost broke a tooth. Yeah.
Ugh.
Bazooka Joe, right?
Yeah, and ever since then, every time I'd get that, I'd be like, oh, man. Like, I just throw it away because I remember as a kid, it would take forever to chew. I just must have got a piece that was out there for a long time.
Your girlfriend almost broke one of my teeth one time. She gave me a jawbreaker, and she didn't tell me what it was. She was like, hey, you want this? I'm like, oh, cool. I thought it was one of those things that Mom used to have at the cleaners where you put a quarter in the gumball.
Yeah.
And I took a bite and almost lost my teeth.
Man.
You guys want to come back with top 5 candies by the end of the show? Something we can jump back to later?
All right.
Good? On the good side?
But what do we...
Okay.
Are we talking like our chocolate bars involved or just like candy? Or
Halloween edition. It was stuff that you would find within the range of. You can go, nice stuff to cheap stuff, but within the range that you would find in a trick-or-treat bag. What's your top 5 that you're hoping to find when you dump out your trick-or-treat bag as a kid?
All right. Mine should be pretty easy because I'm pretty basic when it comes to mine. But
Probably a lot of crossover.
All right, guys. Today we're going to speak to 2 guests that are fighting not this Saturday at UFC 230, but the following week. It's UFC Fight Night 139 in Denver, Colorado, the historic 25-year anniversary, now headlined by Yair Rodriguez versus the Korean Zombie. While I was in California or over the weekend, Frankie Edgar fell off, so we now have Yair Rodriguez stepping in. Still a fight I want to watch.
Great fight.
It's just that I guess the timing of it all sure would have been nice for the historic show to just be New York 1 week later. I don't know why that didn't happen. Was there an official reason for that? Or Denver's just where it started, right?
Well, Denver's where it started, exactly. So they wanted to.
So could Denver have been a pay-per-view, or is that just New York's home the last 3 Novembers?
Yeah, I think they didn't want to do obviously back-to-back pay-per-views. You got Madison Square Garden. Of course, they tried to make that a marquee show. Didn't necessarily end up that way, but yeah, there was a lot of talk about where to do it. But I think the idea of being back in Denver where it started was fun.
That makes sense. All right. Well, on that fight card, Mark De La Rosa and Amanda Cooper both fight there, so we'll be talking to them. But in the second hour, so the first hour is wide open to discuss the latest news, take some calls, come up with a top 5 candy bar or Halloween candy list, whatever's clever. I guess the big thing that just keeps getting talked about is this trade, and I'm kind of using air quotes for that one. Both organizations had to let go of their athletes basically, and I guess it was up to them to still negotiate with the 2 prize fighters the terms. I think we knew that the Demetrious Johnson side of it was a slam dunk because his coach is one of the execs, I think the matchmaker even, over at One Championship. I think he already had an idea of what the money was, what he'd be doing, in his first fight, whether he wants to admit it or not. I'm sure he already knows. So that was kind of the easy side. The other side is Ben Askren coming this way. Dana seemed pretty warm to it all even before this trade talk. In social media, they had an exchange a few months back, and he said, hey, look, as long as you're free of one, then I'd love to continue this conversation. So now it's just a matter of, T's and I's, and I think they'll be good to go and coming up with a matchup. Now, yesterday, Ben Askren was on our show, and he did put out early on, kind of killed 3 of my questions, was it looks like they're not giving me GSP or Habib, and right away started in on Till. So I think that right away started eliminating, well, could he jump the queue and drop to 55 and ahead of Tony? Could they go to 65? Ali Abdelaziz is also saying big stuff coming for Habib. And so my wheels were spinning, but with him eliminating them two and him going towards Till, Till being the first guy he mentioned on our show, that along with him teasing Dana White on Block Me Boss, and now I woke up this morning to see another post. Hey, let's make this thing official. I think we can finally say this is a completed deal.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I like the idea of not necessarily bringing them in against Habib or against GSP. I don't think the UFC would get the value out of that. I mean, Askren, I think, does have to prove himself to the casual fan. I mean, to us, he's a big name. To us, we know what he's capable of, right? But he's been fighting in Asia for a long time. He's been kind of sitting on the sidelines. And I think he's kind of been forgotten a little bit by the general public that may have even known him from Bellator. I doubt they knew. That was very early days. But, so I think if you bring him in right away against a GSP, against a Habib, I don't think you get the pop out of it that you want in terms of casual fans tuning in. I think you bring him in against a guy like Till, who was well-respected, had a lot of hype behind him, and I think obviously that clash of styles would be intriguing, and if Askren can out-wrestle him and beat him on the ground, then I think you get some action out of it. So I like that idea as a first matchup. I think it makes sense. I just don't think the UFC would be able to headline something special. It wouldn't do a ton of views. It wouldn't do a ton of buys. So I like it. And I will say the UFC dragging their feet on the announcement, I do find a little bit surprising. You think they'd want to get behind it. Yeah, they got New York going on.
Plus John Anik ask him a few questions, introduce our latest signing.
And they're always about, making sure that the legal documents are all done and all that, So, I mean, maybe they're just waiting to get things done, everything signed off by the lawyers and that sort of thing. But, yeah, I think they'd probably want to do something special in New York.
Yeah, okay. I'm good with that. Would you agree that Woodley and Covington are next for each other?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why Covington and Askren isn't going to get talked about much, because I'd love to see that one on the ground.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I would love to see that too, but would you like to see it at the expense of seeing Woodley Covington?
No,
exactly.
I think Covington earned that spot. Dallas needed a show early, and he wasn't able to make it, but for the most part, he had been a pretty good team player, traveling overseas, promoting, and so that's just a fight. It's got heat. That fight needs to happen. So we eliminate him out of the equation. Askren himself kind of already eliminated GSP and Habib, and I think Dana's already kind of been telling us it's going to be Tony. Forget about Mayweather. McGregor even said, I'll take another fight if I have to, which leads me to believe he's going to Diaz. So I'm just trying to connect these pieces, And I think Till and Askren, you can probably call it a front runner, but if not Till, who do you want, Dan?
I would say like a wild card, like someone threw out, like if you got like a Diaz here, but I'm actually kind of going back to the ground level with more of a Till. Even though I said yesterday I don't like that matchup for Till. I think it kind of forces him to middleweight, especially if he loses there. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be 2 back-to-back, and he's already been contemplating with enough. But what I will say is, what should make this less of a surprise that they're not going to do something quote-unquote big with Askren is, I feel like no matter what the options were, even if Khabib and George or were on the table, I still think it's hard to predict where he would go. I think the safest bet of all this is that with them, unfortunately to some, stating they're going to continue the Ultimate Fighter for ESPN, I bet you that there's some favorite odds if you were to place odds on whether or not Ben Askren's a candidate for a future coach on one of those shows. He's kind of got everything you need. They like to get their higher priced guys in those positions to kind of make them get the juice and the squeeze from what they're paying the fighter and what they're trying to put into. And that one fight is going to test him whether or not they can put him in a title spot, whether or not they can put him in a coaching tough spot and whatnot. I don't think they want to put themselves into too big of a spot and let it fall right on their face. That's kind of happened with a lot of matchups where they really got behind one guy and one matchup.
But first fight and then coach? Because if he has to coach, now he's not fighting until the end of July. Or
first fight then coach, like kind of like a Justin. We've seen it before, like a Justin Gaethje coming in. You give him a Michael Johnson. Not the biggest card, but you have him kind of give a rub from a big card, whether it's a co-main in a slot, a fight from the a fight card before. You see how they do on the UFC stage in the main event slot against commensurate opposition. Then I wouldn't be surprised, and all of a sudden you see a warming. Like John was saying, they're a bit trailing right now on posts. There's little things if you want to read between the lines. Obviously, Dana and Ben Askren haven't gotten along, but we've even seen Dana. He's a savvy businessman. He knows when that can work in his favor too, and he's been able to parlay that in past relationships with fighters.
I'll throw 2 other names out there. Now, the first one, I'll throw out Wonder Boy. He's linked to Robbie Lawler early next year, but for some reason Lawler's recovery isn't going well. Same thing with the Till. I think the clash of styles. I think that would be an interesting fight, and it's a name that people know. That's the only reason I throw it out there. The other would be Damian Maia. I think stylistically it'd be fun. I don't think Maia's got a ton of fights left. And I don't really want to see Damian in there against any of those hard hitters. And you don't think of Askren as a knockout artist. Even if Maia was to take a loss, I think it would be dominated through positioning. And it'd probably take some punches on the ground, but it wouldn't be Damian Maia getting laid out by one of these 25-year-old knockout artists or whatever. So those would be other names that would intrigue me. But I like the idea of Till, especially because once those two got pen to paper and started having a little back and forth on social media and that sort of stuff, I'm sure the build-up would be pretty fun.
I like those. I also was thinking Masvidal or something to draw out Nick Diaz.
Those are the 2 I would go with. Put a gangster on
Masvidal and him went at it pretty good, and Masvidal's kind of been saying, hey, they're not offering me the right type of fight. So if he got him excited to fight, and that brings Masvidal out to fight, Masvidal might be interested because he already trained for an Askren-type fighter in Maia.
Right.
So he might feel like, hey, I have some of these skills to stop this, keep it on the feet, blah, 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 whatever. Kamaru Usman would be fun, but I think he's just so close to a title shot, and you can't put Askren in there because if the Woodley-Askren combo comes out the winner, then what do? You know what I mean? Right away, they've already agreed not to fight. Interesting. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how this plays out, but they're already booking late December, and I've noticed that the ESPN era has not been booked. So could New York present at least a slew of this is where we're starting 2019? Or I noticed they don't have one of those hashtag type of press conferences.
They don't, but you know what? They've been announcing those late. Now, we normally get wind of it. Of course, I wasn't really sniffing around because I'm not going up to New York this week, but we usually start to get wind of it, that's happening. I haven't heard that this week, but they usually announce those kind of late. They'll have it planned, but
I think they have Nunes and Cyborg and DC and Derek. I think they're going to be at a press conference.
Yep.
Wait, that's dumb. Sorry, John and Alex.
Right.
The other 2 are fighting.
So they could just start adding bodies to that and say, hey, we told you it was just this. Now there's actually 20 people.
If not, make a big announcement there.
If not, I would
for Toronto.
I was gonna say, if not, I'd expect it to be in Toronto.
I would expect this is what we're doing through April. These are the next 3 pay-per-views. These are some of the fight nights we're visiting, and I would expect the ESPN for them to make a big splash, big type of announcement. But the only fight I heard is the one John mentioned, and it was for January of next year, 3rd week. And it was Wonder Boy Lawler. But it was something that got floated out there 3 months ago, or maybe 2. And I haven't heard anything since then. And I started thinking, wait a minute. By now, I know we've heard in the past what they're already doing in January, sometimes even February.
Correct me if I'm wrong, John. Isn't there usually 2 big rollout press conferences per year, kind of directed those, one in the summer for the big kind of fall to winter run, but when is the early year portion?
They've kind of gone back and forth on it. They changed it up a little bit, so it's not necessarily set in stone when it happens. But I would expect something. The only thing I can think of, and I'll have to ask some people behind this, is maybe just out of respect for Fox, or just out of just out of not wanting to confuse your viewer. Hey, tune into ESPN, but not yet. Wait till what I mean. You don't want to go too far out and confuse.
I would say after Toronto, though.
Yeah, by Toronto,
you can't wait till after 2:32.
Yeah,
you got 2 days. So I think after Toronto, the respect is just, listen, man, we're moving in a new direction. I'm sure the other guys could be free to promote SmackDown or whatever's coming to their network.
Because
next.
Toronto is December 8th. You've got the last Fox show the next week.
But
that's it. I mean, that's the last show on Fox. So I take that back. You probably got the tough finale. You got the tough finale. No, that's November 30th. Yeah. So that's the last one. So
all you have is Fox Sports prelims on the last card.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Askren for a second. All of those names that everybody threw out: Masvidal, Diaz, Till was brought up.
Perry.
Colby Covington.
What
right?
if Perry gets on the mic this weekend?
Think about this. If you match him up with Ben Askren, who you taking? What are the odds going to be? I think he's going to be an underdog in all of those fights.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Who do you think he can beat?
I think he could beat a lot of people. What I will say to your point, though, is I think that even in the fights where maybe he may be favored as, I don't think he'll be favored by that much. I think the public is going to take it against him until they see if he can earn the hype, so to speak. So I wouldn't be surprised your observation there and seeing him close at underdog lines. At least close on underdog lines.
I thought Santos showed me that an athletic fighter who definitely prepares himself, for some takedowns, the ability to get up or whatever. But just an athletic fighter can maybe stuff a takedown or two and give himself, the ability to survive and strike and keep the fight in the stand-up position.
I think he put him on his back.
So you got to be someone that's kind of spry. Like I liked out of Masvidal, there were a couple times that he was able to mitigate Maia at first. So that one would be a really, really tough fight for Askren. Diaz is too complacent sometimes. Towards the end of the GSP fight, his takedown defense had improved, but it's been so long since he fought. I think he's just very easy to take down, and even though he's got great jiu-jitsu, so does Askren. So I don't like Diaz's chances there, plus the layoff. I do like Masvidal's chances. Gun to the head, I don't know. You'd have to put a gun to my head to figure that one out. Oh, boy.
There's a gun next to the head.
The other guy hasn't lost, man. The other guy hasn't lost. That fucking Askren hasn't lost, but I still may ride with Masvidal, Goose.
I think I would, too, and I think I would with almost all of the names that you guys threw out there.
Colby,
no disrespect
I
to
would
Ben.
ride with Colby. Maia, I might ride with Askren because Jake had a formula for Maia that I think Askren can replicate. And as old as Askren's getting, he's 34, I think. Maia's pushing 40.
Yeah.
So I guess it all depends. Till, how about Till, guys? Till, I believe, is an athletic guy. And look, he got put down by Woodley, and then after that, Woodley did what he did on the ground. But is he going to fear that from Askren? Is he going to fear his hands? You know what I mean? He's going to be a lot more worried about the takedown. So
I agree, because that's what makes Woodley so dangerous is you can't just sell out on defending the takedown because you got to watch out for his power as well. With Askren, I don't think you have to watch out for his power.
Lawler's got good hips and good feet, and he's been able to stuff a lot of takedowns in his day.
Oh, yeah.
He's a little bit older now, but still, same thing. Wonder Boy, I see him maybe possibly getting taken down, but man, that's a great question.
So, but here's what I don't think
Not
a lot
easily,
of people
but
bring up.
Okay.
And it's the fact that I think wherever you put Ben Askren, he's probably going to be the main event, whatever card, okay? That means 5 rounds. He's not really a finisher, which means he's got to, at the minimum,
he's actually finished 7 of his last 8, believe it or not.
But
prior to that,
level,
he was a decision.
At this level, look at some of the dudes, right? He's got to take them down at least 5 times in that fight. It's going to take a lot of cardio. Don't forget, man, he's been retired. Like, who knows what he's been doing, right? Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to ask for. I'm pretty sure just about any of these names you throw out, I'm probably going to pick the other guy.
I like what you guys mentioned as far as like a Cowboy Perry winner. I mean, you got a big name. Someone's going to help sell the event and give it, kind of overachieve in that end, right? As far as where they're ranked and skill set and what kind of event it is, you get that kind of a name in there. That's going to compensate. Style wise, they're very dangerous, but there's a nice route there for Ben Askren. And not the most biggest welterweights, either guy, and neither is Askren. So I really like those. I know Askren said he's been in shape as far as wrestling, but admitted that he hasn't been doing any striking or MMA training. So I don't know if he's trying to jump in within the next month or two. Yeah. And those guys, Perry and Cowboy, are both notable guys who don't mind a quick turnaround or a nice spot if you give it to them. So I think that's probably the most logical choice. And now that we're really winding it down here,
I'll tell you what, man. As much respect as I think we all have for Askren's skills, it's easy to make a case against him not being top level. I mean, you start looking at his record. I mean, what's his biggest win? He went out
Korshkov and Lima.
They're
the ones that are ranked now.
That's it. You know what I mean? I don't think you really count Aoki at this point, right? I mean, no disrespect to Aoki, but it's not.
He's fought at 45, 55, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's it.
His most difficult fights were against Santos and
Haram was a split, right?
Yep.
That was the toughest
guy.
Split.
And Santos, both fights were pretty tough.
Santos, yeah. All right. So let me ask you this question now. This has nothing to do with X's and O's. What about the side of the UFC, I think, we're looking at it as they got themselves a coveted free agent. This is a guy that can talk. He can sell. He's been an Olympian. He's undefeated. He's got the accolades, right? A former belt holder. What does the UFC want to do with this guy? Because the UFC has the ability to protect them a little bit, coddle them, and get them to some big fights if that's what they want to do. If not, give them the big fight right away. And at the same time, is there going to be – man, I got to be real careful with my back. Is there going to be an ego
on the Dana side?
No, is there going to be something to the equation of who got the best out of it? Because imagine if Askren goes 0-2, just gets fucking obliterated, and Demetrious is the toast of the town up in Asia, or vice versa. You know, those organizations are going to feel a little bit of that heat. Not that they care, not that they care on the financial side, but just on the side that a lot, you know, you just, I don't know. I think a lot of it's still ego, even though everybody's pretty secure over here in Vegas. They're pretty secure over there. They're just, you know, they're not going to want to hear from the legions of fans like, haha, someone got the best of it. That happens in pro sports. So what I'm saying is, what do you think they want to do with Askren? Do they just want to? Do they want him to be a world champion? He's already saying, I'm not fighting the guy in my category. So what do you want to do with him? Do you want to put him in a super fight? Just fight a couple other guys?
But to be honest with you, isn't that almost best case scenario for the UFC? Is it almost best case scenario for UFC for Askren to come in, get smoked, and Dana says, told you so, and Demetrious to just go keep beating everybody, and you go, see, we always have the best in the world. You know what I mean? So I don't think they feel bad if that happens. I think it's a win-win situation for him, because if Askren –
that is a card to play.
Yeah, if Askren comes in and does well, they go, yeah, well, you know, glad we could bring him in. He could test himself against the world's best, and this trade worked out. You know, nobody was watching Demetrious. You guys said you didn't care about him. Now we got somebody you care about. Hey, we do what the fans want. Or vice versa, Askren gets smoked, Demetrious keeps winning. They go, see, I mean, we let this guy go because you guys said you weren't interested in him. He's still tearing it up. And then we brought this guy in that you guys said was amazing, and he got crushed. We're still the best.
And then the vice versa is if he's the toast of the town, we got ourselves another superstar.
It's a win-win.
It is. How many times have I said that, man? It's a cartel. They just keep shoving them shipments over. Something.
If the division gets abolished, I think it's just kind of like, well, what do we care? We don't even have that division anymore. Right. Something along those lines. But, okay, my question about Demetrious Johnson is this. On the UFC side, letting him go, is it, adios, get the hell out of here? Or because Demetrious hasn't really said the worst things about the UFC, but he's never really said the greatest things either.
Yeah.
So I'm sure behind the scenes, maybe the UFC, they've tried, they put him in main events, it just hasn't worked out. Is it one of those relationships with a girl where you just go, I think we're better friends?
I think so, man. I think behind the scenes, I mean, while I don't think there's any, disrespect, man, or any hatred or anything. I know they were frustrated. I mean, I know behind the scenes they were trying to put together the Demetrious and Dillashaw fight, and they basically said Demetrious' team wanted none of it. He was basically making ridiculous demands. Well, I mean, he came out and said it. The millions he wanted. That they were like, that's not going to happen. Why don't we just do the fight anyway? And I think there was some frustration behind the scenes. So yeah, I think they're okay saying, you know what, hey, we appreciate it, man. You did great things here, but.
It's a win-win.
What I was curious on the Demetrious, and I'm glad you brought that up. And John, I don't know if you have any insight into this, but what caught my eye was the fact that at least his camp is claiming that his deal is better than Eddie Alvarez, and Eddie Alvarez,
he's an
alluded to
guy.
8-figure guy, alluded to percentage of the company, and we're not the most business savvy guys here, but usually that, as far as top of the tier of what we've heard within our context of history of the sport, fighters not getting but at least asking for a piece of that pie seems to be the highest mountain as far as financial investment. So
I raise an eyebrow to it all.
What does that mean?
I just don't like how much do you really want to pay him out? Like, is Asia starving for Demetrious Johnson? I don't think so. Was there that demand that needed to be met? I don't think so. So do you open the checkbook for something like that? I mean, I don't know. Eddie, maybe there's a little bit of a historical look. He had a run in Japan, but that was fucking over 10 years ago as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but he does come and he just gives you those exciting types of fights. So I don't know, man. I don't know if these figures will get published. But I just, Chandler, he says I think he's got the richest contract in Bellator history. I don't know if Hawaii's going to release figures, but at some point he'll probably fight in a state that does. And it seems like every time they say it, they're all sitting comfortably at that 175, 200 range. Rampage gets 300 or whatever. And I don't
know what they're getting behind the scenes. That's just the published pay. That's just the published pay because, you have a bout agreement, then you have a promotional agreement. Like, you get paid a certain amount just for promoting the fight, just for showing up and doing all the media appearances and all that. That's not on the person that gets paid through the athletic commission. So they could be getting paid something behind the scenes. But
they're now getting paid for promotional?
Well, yeah, everybody has a promotional agreement.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when they do big fights.
Because so many fighters have complained and said, hey, I've done the Q&As, I've done so much of that stuff, and I don't get paid.
Well, it depends on how your contract is. I say everybody. It's not like the typical average fighter does it. But the big money fighters have it's basically a way of paying behind the scenes so that all that money doesn't get published. But, to your point with Demetrious Johnson, I think one championship is going to benefit from him being there. You're right. I don't think there's some, huge demand. But I think when they can go into these markets and they can say, look, man, this guy is just one fight removed from being a UFC champion. I mean, this is a guy that's pound for pound. And that's what they want. That's what we used to hear when we were going to the events over in Asia, the UFC, the developing market is. And we see it like these fans, they don't want to just see like regional fighters from their area put on a card that they've already seen fight. They want to see the stuff that they've seen on TV. They want to see the stars from abroad come over there to their backyard and watch them fight live. And I think that's what they can do with Demetrious Johnson. Of course, we know they'll have no shortage of opponents for him. I mean, there are smaller fighters over there. I mean, one has a men's strawweight division, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to have fights. It's going to be interesting. You're in charge of our rankings at MMAjunkie. It's going to be tough because you get in these spots where there's who's he going to fight? I mean, how long does he keep holding his position?
Seems to be one of their top dogs.
That's it. You know what I mean? That's the interesting thing. But I think Demetrious is going to love it over there. I mean, the quote that he had is so true, and he's made it clear over the years. He doesn't like the way that fights are promoted right now. He doesn't like the game that there is in the UFC especially. He loves the Asian style where it's just more about the competition, the honor, the respect, the more traditional martial arts values. And I think it's a good fit for Demetrious. If he can get paid, man, I don't think he cares one bit about being in the spotlight here, and definitely we know he doesn't like the trash talk.
Well, that's the next thing, too. Do any of the fighters really care about the martial arts traditions and respect versus the WWE-esque style of fights that the UFC throw? Like, does either side seem to care? I think what we all care about in this world is money. Whoever's paying me, I'll just say what they want to hear. And that's, to me, kind of what it sounded like. Demetrious, I've heard him on Twitch, and he talks shit like a mofo.
Oh, yeah,
so it's not like he doesn't. On Twitch, it's not like he doesn't like that side doesn't come out of him. But I don't know, man.
You know what? How I think one championship is going to deal with this whole thing. I used this example the other day. Think of MLS. How many people go to a Galaxy game to watch the Galaxy play, and how many people just go because they want to see Zlatan?
Yep.
Or they go to DC United because they want to see Rooney. They don't really go to see DC United. I think that's why people are going to buy tickets to one championship, because they want to see Demetrious Johnson.
On the one side, too, I'm conflicted because Lauren's always told us, and things we've heard from friends of the media and others that have gone, the pageantry, the red carpet, the sold-out arenas, the way these fighters are treated, the production, the stadiums are full. And then we have this report that comes out with Bloody Elbow. Well, not so fast. Maybe they're not killing it. I don't know what to think of one as of late, But, all right, let's take a commercial. You're listening to MMAjunkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. Remember, the whole first hour is wide open, so you can contribute to this if you'd like by calling 866-522-2846.
King Kong has a lot of shit on them. Like a lot, especially Goes. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
We have your chance to see a very special live performance by Rick Gervais and friends. One grand prize winner will receive a trip or two to New York along with 2 tickets to the show on November 8th. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/Ricky Gervais before October 31st. That's tomorrow. No additional purchases necessary.
I thought you were going to sneeze.
So did I.
That would have been the end of the show.
John cracked me up earlier, and just that chuckle hurt, so I am dreading the sneeze at some point.
Oh, man.
Yeah, at some point.
Back issues, no fun, huh?
Bad.
You've had them too?
Nah, just see people hobbled by them.
Yeah, they suck. All right, Askren and DJ. I guess, guys, I'll try one more time. Let me put it to you like this: Do you think the UFC will try and challenge Askren, or give him a favorable matchup to let Askren shine?
Favorable.
Okay. Because they're probably paying him good money, right?
Yeah, I think. I mean, you can't. There's no gimme fights, obviously, in the UFC, but I don't think you can cupcake them too much. But I do think they'll probably put him up against somebody with some wrestling deficiencies, at least in his first fight.
Okay.
I'm voting that they're going to send him the tough route, so I'll say favorable.
To tough.
Yeah,
coach.
they're going to build him up. They want to build him somewhere, so they're going to say favorable matchup. So
okay.
The TUF route, not the TOUGH.
By the way, I said this before. I want to thank Chelsea from the UFC. You know, every single person that works over there contributes in one way. And when she lined up every single fighter from the previous season, it actually forced me to watch every single episode.
Nice.
And once I got hooked, I liked it. You know,
Nice.
I liked it. I liked Tough Talk. They got me. But this last time, I watched a few episodes, and then I fell off. I had, I don't think it was about the time when I went over to be with Big Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a couple California trips, or who knows what happened, and they just piled up and piled up. I had to come back the next day. I had a lot of stuff piling up. Boom, I just deleted 4 episodes.
You didn't watch them? You just deleted them?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't watch them.
I'm
not going to go back and watch something that happened 4 weeks ago. I'll tune into the finale and see what happens. But the characters, so the fighters, so the characters of the show.
It's got
in this
drama
case,
now, though. That's what
the
you
fighters,
like.
I guess goes. But, man, I was behind on a lot of stuff. I still haven't finished Ozark. And you know how much I like Ozark. I'm the one telling people when they go, what should I watch on Netflix? Go watch Ozark. I haven't watched that. I was just behind on a lot of stuff. I wanted to ask you guys, did you guys wind up keeping up with it, or?
I caught up, but I did miss about 2 weeks of it.
Worth it?
And then
Good
it went
fights?
away for a little bit. Huh?
Good fights?
They've been okay.
See, this is the
But
thing.
The dramas kept me.
Okay, so maybe the drama, I blew it on that, but I like to see good fights, and I like to see the promise of what I think will be good contributors to the respective stable or stables. And I didn't feel like I was getting that. Yeah, I saw maybe a couple that were promising, I guess. But I wasn't getting it, and so I'm just coming clean. How about you, John? Have you been able to keep up with it?
I'm behind a little bit on it, but I am watching for the same reason, to kind of see. I mean, those are 2 divisions that need fighters, you know, so I wanted to kind of see, do we have any contributors? You're right, the fights have been a little slow to start out with, some of them, but it hasn't been bad. So now I think we're about to get into the meat of the season, you know, and now it's probably time to pay attention. But I'm kind of, yeah, I mean, listen, I think knowing that we're kind of at the end of this or whatever, and kind of anxious to see how it pans out next year. So we'll see. My interest in this year has been a little tough.
Yeah.
Normally I watch every episode.
Was that pun intended?
It was not. It was not. Just sitting there.
And so here's the other thing, guys. It's nothing against the UFC and their product of developing, because obviously we can come up with like 5 or 6 champions right off the top, plenty of title contenders. But that I also gave them my time of contenders every Tuesday. I was there. I was either there or watching it. I've given them that. But at the same time, I thought PFL had an interesting concept. They gave us so many shows so quickly. In 6 months, someone's going to be a millionaire. So I was a little vested into that. And remember, it keeps going back to something we discussed. There's just not a lot of time. No disrespect to our good friend Andrew Simon, who's a good friend of the show, and LFA. I used to catch them all. Then I started going to co-main and main. Now main occasionally, you know. And some of those main event fighters, I'm like, wait a minute. Those ones on contenders, I'm like, you probably would have been a main event on LFA. I know they've been battling for some of that talent. So it is just difficult.
I think the key word there for me is stakes. Not staying away from the puns. I'm talking about food here. but with the stakes are at hand. I brought it up the other day when we had the double event. It was Bellator versus PFL, and it was a strong weekend for Bellator. They had not just one but 2 cards, but the one on Saturday, as good as it was, I would even say maybe that Saturday card was better if I had to pick hairs as far as the Bellator shows, but I still found myself watching the PFL show. My eyes were gravitating toward that screen because that had the stakes on it. That had not just fun fights, but I had to watch what happened after because there were stakes, there were announcements to be made after. Same with Dana White Contender Series, if we're splitting it here, but even within UFC content. Tough versus Contender Series. You're getting that high joltage. We're getting our fights. We're getting the fat trim. We're still getting the drama because we're getting a story introduced, but not overblown. They shoot doing the Bulgarian bags in front of the PI, and it's a real quick shoot, sure, but it's enough to give you that a little bit of context that you need to be invested, and then you're sticking around regardless of the result to see who's making it in, who's getting what fate get dished out. Whereas you kind of lose track of that with a tough show because you're focused on one fight, but then there's all this drama and side stories, and there's these coaches. Oh, what's going on with the coaches? Is something developing here? And you're kind of brought all over the place, and then you're having to wait for the next installment next week, and then you're surrounded by the whole context of something we talk about of just having so much of the show in the first place.
I'm anxious to see next year for Contenders, and then if Tough does continue. But you guys know, I mean, they're building a new gym. It's closer to where we live, which is fantastic. I'm excited that it's a lot easier to get to. But I'm anxious to see it because it's supposedly going to be a top-notch facility with air conditioning, which is fantastic. And some of them have been very hot. But even like an actual media section, more like a normal fight night, so it's not kind of just some you
haven't exactly been suffering there, John. I noticed that. You're right. He's always got the prime real estate where the Contenders goes in there on the bleachers going, my ass is
Kenny might as well be home. He's like all the way in the back by the bathroom.
He's got a big TV right in front of him, though. He gets to watch it there.
Yeah. Jeez. But, the thing is here, in regards to Contenders, it's will they open it to the public?
I don't know. Okay. I'm not sure.
So have you been, Dan, yet? Yeah. Well, we got. Oh, so you have. Okay. I was gonna say, it's so interesting because when the fight happens, when the first fight happens, you'll see a guy win, and you'll see their manager or coaches kind of like, damn. Especially if the guy was going for it. Whew, how are these next 4 fights gonna go? You know what I mean? Because if we got some finishes, we gotta hope we're catching Dana on a week that they're bringing in 2 or 3 or even 4. I think I've seen 4 once. You know, if he does finish them, you got to wait out and hope that someone else's finish isn't as good. You know, so I love seeing that drama behind the scenes. The fans are getting real close to each other, you know, and they're chirping.
I'm waiting for a fight to break out there, man.
Absolutely will happen. If they keep it that way, it will happen one day. Just look at Top
it's so
Order
intimate, and you can hear like the people yelling so loudly right next to you. Ugh.
And they're not saying the nicest.
They only had. I know, you're right. Yeah, they were saying like, beat that bum. He ain't got nothing for you, you know, whatever. But they only had one time where I saw security show up, and it was like 2 dudes, and I was thinking, but wait a minute, I'm seeing like 6 or 7 people on each side. I don't know if you're gonna be able to stop this.
What about the Armenian guy that threw the chair that one time? Were you there for that?
Is that the one that lost to Sean O'Malley? His butt when he guaranteed it?
Might have been. It was one of
he goes,
guys,
I
right?
guarantee.
Remember when he picked up? Yeah, that guy. And he picked up the chair and he slammed it, and the commissioner.
He goes, I'm gonna be turned around. He goes, I'm gonna be loud. I don't give a fuck what you guys think. And we're all sitting there going like, do your thing, you know what I mean? Go ahead. I didn't know who O'Malley was. I didn't know who his guy was. But I looked at their records, and both had good records. I think they're both undefeated. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty pumped up. O'Malley just had that look, you know, the moppy hair and everything. And he said, he goes, my guy's going to make it. Dana White's going to take him. And this guy's the next future champion. Cool. You know, nobody had a problem with that. And he was loud. And he wasn't the coach. Edmund was the coach. This guy was just a fan. But I think he almost looked like a guy that, like, I pay for his camp or something like that. Someone that was like an owner of a fighter if somebody would ever do that. And on the other side was O'Malley. And you know what? It was a really, really great fight. It's not that the dude didn't have moments, but O'Malley came through, as you all know.
Was it O'Malley, though? I thought it was someone else.
Pretty sure it was O'Malley, yeah. I'm almost like 99% it was O'Malley. And then it got so quiet,
I'm sure I convinced him he went to a concert today.
Well, let's check it out.
All right.
I mean, I'll look it up. Sean O'Malley. And man, it was funny because I think everybody was cracking jokes to themselves, like, where's that noise now? You know, whatever.
Right.
But you could just tell that guy was like one little
he even gave it to the fighter
or
afterwards.
needle from like turning around, just exploding. But you're right, Goes. I'd like to see a little bit more of that, a little bit more order if they're gonna have that. Because it's intense. That is such an intense. You can cut it with a knife, man. It's a very intense atmosphere. It's very compelling. A win doesn't guarantee it. So and you know what? And you want to show.
Can't win them all.
You want a good showing for yourself because as we've seen, they've invited contenders to another contender.
Sure.
You could be on 1 and be on 8.
Yep.
I think Joby
Sanchez
did that or something like that.
Yep.
He looked it up?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, wow.
My bad.
My terrible memory came through. All right.
Man, I'm just kind of sad now that you think about that. There's no more fights in that tough gym, man.
I know.
It's
a historic place, and now like
is it closed?
Oh yeah, they gave it up. So basically, you know, they tried to raise the rent on them, and it was already. I mean, they had outgrown that facility so long ago. So basically, they decided to give it up. But yeah, I haven't gone. I've been meaning to just drive over there and see if they've already painted over like the UFC on the doors and stuff. But yeah, they don't even have it anymore. They just rented that. They didn't own it. So
that'll be an awesome top 5 that I don't think I could do. Top 5 fights that took place in that
historical, man. The things that have happened there, it's crazy. I mean, it's a dump of a place in a shady location, but the tough gym, there's a lot of history there.
Parking was a nightmare.
Oh, parking was ridiculous.
Especially in the summer, man. That is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
You got to hop on that.
Long walk up there.
Yeah, on that van or something. All right, we got to do one more break. Let's do it. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Gorgeous George and goes.
Get the radio channel numbers and a link to listen to your favorite NFL, college football, NBA, or NHL team sent straight to your smart device. Just go to SiriusXM.com/sports today. and click Add to My Calendar once you're there. All right, I was asking John this about during the break, and something I wanted to discuss on the show. John, how would you categorize the UFC's decision to not reveal a temporary suspension for alleged anti-doping? Are you liking it? I brought up O'Malley's name earlier, and then when I started to do the research on whether he fought the Armenian guy, I remembered, oh, that's right, he got popped. I wrote it in my notes yesterday to talk about Marvin Vettori. He came out clean as well. Or sorry, he came clean about not being clean, but saying that he will be clean. But yeah, he did a video himself. But what do you think about all this?
I'll say this. I think it was a move made with proper intentions. I think it was a move made with the right idea as far as, not having people be considered guilty until proven innocent, and I like it. But I think it was the wrong move, man, because now every time something happens, we're left wondering, was that USADA? Was that, was that
like
something
Poirier
that happened?
or Edgar?
That's it. When we hear things fall off the card, and it's just natural. I don't think it's bad we've seen so many people pop, and now you just wonder, since there's no clarity, hey, what happened here,
That sucks for us, though. Is that going to suck on, is the UFC going to look at that and go, okay, I kind of feel you guys, or are they just going to say, hey, that's on you guys. We're just running our business?
Probably. They'll say, hey, it's better than a guy being wrongfully accused and then coming out later, because as we always say, it's that accusation that stands firm, not the retraction on page 10,
so the
later
on.
But
the accusation are low.
The accusation stands firm for about a week or sometimes days, and then someone else does something dumb and it goes away. Everybody has fun, says what they got to do on Twitter. Here comes the sneeze, guys. And
don't do it. You just gotta hold it in.
Does it go away? Or?
Yeah, it'll go away. You're gonna be uncomfortable, but dude, if you sneeze, your back will get, like you said yesterday, your spine will explode.
Yeah, maybe it'll pop back into place.
Oh, that would be. Hey, can I tape it? Can I tape it if you do?
If you want. But anyway, what I was saying was, I think I really like the old ways better, and I just think they need to expedite everything quicker. I mean, they got a guy on staff who's dedicated to this. Nowitzki works for the UFC, not for USADA. So when this happens, I would imagine that by now the UFC's got this legal ironclad contracts that they sign that they're allowed to speak in certain verbiages without identifying you as some sort of a cheater, but yet laying out the facts and saying we're going to investigate. In the past, this is what's happened. Forget about the Twitter reaction, what they may say, because in the end they don't count, and they just go away after like a few days, a few hours, whatever. Unless you're repetitive, then if you're repetitive, yeah, you start to get that tag. There's no way around it. But I think I like the old way because the speculation is just as bad now.
I think it's causing problems. Whether the UFC will care about it or not, I'm not sure. Again, it's not something that they can't change again. I mean, that's the thing, is this policy should be. This is the type of situation though where it sucks that the fighters don't have any real say in it. You know what I mean? This is the type of stuff that collective bargaining would be fantastic about, is they could say, hey, have a voice, a seat at the table, say, this is how we would appreciate it being handled. This is how we would like for it to be handled. So I don't know, man. I don't know that there's a right answer, but I do think that this is causing probably problems that maybe, people didn't anticipate seeing.
I just feel like we're all doing this right now. It is causing problems, and the analogy to that is I feel like we're doing this. We're just hacking in the dark with machetes right now. Fighters, fans, media, whenever these situations come up and the changes they're making.
And here's what I think is that, in the situation where guys are basically being called guilty until proven innocent, there was stuff in their system. It's not like anybody's come back from USADA and be like, bro, I am so sorry. The B sample had nothing in it. Dude, it turns out somebody forgot to calibrate the machine that day, bro. I am so sorry we put your name out there. No, it's come back to, yes, you did test positive, but here's why.
Right.
And you know what? I mean, now
they feel like the here's why it doesn't offset those accusations.
I feel like this is almost worse. Now you're talking about people saying I was wrongfully accused. Now you got people that aren't even guilty of anything. If there were people saying, did you test positive? No, bro, I tweaked my ankle. Leave me alone.
All right. I don't know if we have time here, but what about this Project Spearhead? You see Cajun Johnson saying it's fucked. It's done. People weren't signing. They needed 1/3 of the roster, so let's say 1/3 of 600, 200 fighters to anonymously say, yes, I'd like to find out if we're an employer or whether I'm an independent contractor. He says those numbers were low. Leslie's been cut. Cajun's been cut. You know what? It sucks because that Cajun fought pretty well, even though he lost his last fight.
I scored the fight for Cajun.
I thought he was UFC caliber. I was like, man, say what you will, but that was a fight. He showed up. And I
thought he won it.
And I think Alain Quinta is the only other person out there that's been public about it. there's been a few others that have signed, but it looks like yet again it's going away.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Leslie and Cajun both at various times on the road, and got updates from them and some insight. And it's tough, man. Fighters are just fearful, man. I think they're afraid of what happens to them.
We gotta get them big name fighters. Without them,
well, they tried. Remember, they had Kane, Cowboy, Tim, and TJ. I don't remember if Kane was champ at the time, but TJ wasn't, I don't think. I know they brought Bjorn on. Maybe he should have been behind the scenes or whatever. Did I say GSP? And then GSP. And even that, it looked like that really had a little bit of traction for a while. They were saying they were getting a lot of phone calls and everything, but then that one went away.
I'll just say that if we want the organizations to stop taking the short money and play the long game for the sake of the sport, the fighters got to do the same too.
Sacrifices will have to be made. All right, this is a quick top of the hour break. And then when we come back, I believe we still have a few minutes to discuss this and other topics. Call in 866-522-2846. The actual cars? Sounds different. Or are these the automobiles?
We had to do adjustments. Today's covers. Remember how we would do the first letter of a band and then the first letter of the song? Well, we went all the way through Z, so we were trying to find a replacement. And to buy some time, we did covers today.
All right. This sounds like Danny Elker singing, doesn't it?
The automobiles. That would be funny, though.
One of my favorite covers is
too.
Johnny Cash covering 9 Inch Nails.
That's a good one, too.
It's a solid one.
Danny, could you sing this song?
I could.
I think so,
I like
too.
this song.
Yeah. All right. So was there anything else you guys wanted to say in regards to unionization or what happened there? The other ones have just kind of gone away, and I guess we'll just have to wait for the next wave of this.
Do you guys know about Zuffa Boxing? Do you think they're going to run it almost exactly the way they run the UFC, or do you think some of this stuff is going to change a little bit?
In terms of – because I mean, listen, we haven't seen anything about Zuffa Boxing yet other than Dana just insisting that it's going to be done. And some T-shirts.
Yeah, T-shirts.
We'll see. I'm anxious to see what they do. I'm surprised that Dana is so insistent about getting into boxing at all. I mean, I know he loves the sport, and I'm sure he sees an opportunity for money to be made. And I know he's passionate about what he does. But damn, I mean, there's already not much time left in his day now, man. I mean, they are stretched so thin as it is. I just can't imagine adding another promotion to that. So I've been constantly shocked all along that he has continued to say we're going to do this. Especially
when, by the way, it's a different organization that's making a move as far as accruing female boxers that could possibly, if you're trying to think of, okay, well, what could he shoot into that thing for some return? And I don't know if it's going to be the female boxing market unless he, takes an already established like Cyborg or Home, because it looks like Bellator's trying to get their hands on, anyone within that and trying to get ahead of that game like they are with the wrestling end too as well.
I was thinking about Dana the other day when I was watching my beloved Dodgers lose the World Series. And I thought, this guy's Parker Lewis. He cannot lose. All of his teams win championships. He makes tons of money on sales. He can put together whatever fights he wants.
Was he at the
game? Sure,
Connor,
you want to box? All right, I'll make money there. He cannot
Was he at the game?
He was not at the clinching game. He was at the night before. Yeah, I actually talked to him, and he was the night before. I'm like, hey, are you doing baseball 2 nights in a row? He's like, no, I'm back in Vegas now. I was like, well, how was last night? It's like, he was hanging out with Kobe Bryant and somebody else. I was like, come on.
Jason Ford was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was Chris Perone.
He did 2 games.
But Jason's from Vermont, so when I saw Jason with the Red Sox, I was like, "Ain't that guy from San Diego?" He's one of our execs, and not the one that throws the bell parties.
Yeah.
But I forgot he is from Vermont. He used to snowboard. He was a professional snowboarder, and all that. And then Perone, I think, just adopted the Dodgers. He's become a real LA guy.
He roots for the Indians.
Yeah, and but he's open about just, hey, I got 2 teams. He roots for the Dodgers. He's been going to some Rams games, but he's a Bills guy.
He goes back to Green Bay every year, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he is a Bills guy.
I think he's
diehard.
Yeah, likes to hit the certain historical stadiums.
So, as a recently acquired Dodgers fan, I was sad to see them lose for sure. But I will say, there was one time where I was not just rooting for the Red Sox, but actually paying attention to baseball. And that was only one time. That was 2004. That's because everybody and their mother here in Vegas, because we don't have a team. States that don't have teams have a high influx of front runners, higher influx of front runners than most. I'm sure you guys can attest to that, moving from California to now seeing Vegas. Everyone and their mothers had a New York Yankees cap. You want to talk about like big franchises. So Danton being the contrarian, I was the only guy in Buffalo Wild Wings, one of the few that was rooting for Boston just to be that guy and just to see them upset and have that comeback. From being down 3 was that was some fun times. I actually felt like I actually liked baseball for a second, but I didn't like baseball. I just wanted to go against everybody and their mother who was wearing Yankees caps.
Did you see
that was
the
first of 4
Damon?
titles.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Kimmel and Matt Damon sat next to each other. They both had "I'm with stupid" shirts and pointed at each other. One red, one blue.
I saw it and I thought that's cute but stupid.
Really? Well, that was funny.
I don't know. Those two just. I don't know. Just always, there's got to be some sort of a little statement. Just put your fucking hat on and cheer.
That's their thing, though. That's their thing, though.
I guess it is. I know, but I'm just kind of, like, how many times is he not going to be on the show? I get it's his thing, but like, I think it's been done. It's ran its course with me.
Are you like Undertaker? Come on, you're not really dead. Knock it off. That's just their thing.
I'm entitled to not like it. I just don't know. I get it. He was not going to be on the show. It's too late. It was funny the first couple times. Then he did a whole song about it, and I think Jimmy boned Ben, and Ben boned Matt or whatever. Sarah Silverman. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, we're done. We're good. We get it. He was the guy. And they just keep going with the stupid thing. And so, I don't know. Our guests are going to be coming up here in just a second at 11:20 and 11:40. So let's take this call here that's up here, and if you want to come in after him, it's 866-522-2846. This is Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, datos? And Rosa and John Morgan, ¿qué pasa, dude?
What's up, brother?
Marco.
Yeah, a few points today, man. I'm a little bit under the weather, can you tell? So if Super Foxy never happened, it cannot be the same model than they get on the UFC because of the existence of the LE Act, man. And all the WBCs, WBOs, IBOs, all that shit. So they have to play more like the boxing model, man. Like the PBC maybe, something like that. But it won't be too far away from what other boxing promotions do. I guess it's better for the fighters too because it is, clarity on the contracts and stuff. The UFC will not be able to pull no, we cannot disclose your personal stuff because the law will not allow that to. When it comes to the trade that was official yesterday, Demetrious Johnson, man. He was on the, Helwani show, and then Mike Kikawa was there too. They were discussing that Demetrious is going to be the highest paid fighter on one, and I'm happy for him, dude. I'm happy for Ben, Askren, I'm happy for Demetrious, but I feel a little bit rough, that I won't be able to see Seguro Demetrious 3, that I will never see Demetrious versus Dominic Cruz 2, and that TJ Dillashaw fight that they promised me so much, and it never happened because he said he's going to retire in one. Hopefully he doesn't. And when it comes to 125, from here out to the end of the year, there's only 4 flyweight fights scheduled. Read the tea leaves on that, man. Don't like it. Hopefully they don't get rid of the division, but if it goes away, it's going to be a shame. Peace out.
Yeah, good point on Zuffa Boxing as far as, when you were asking, will it be run the same? It can't be run exactly the same because there are some laws in place that prevent it. So, but, I was thinking more strategic-wise than actually like nuts and bolts and that sort of thing. So, yeah, there would
like
have to be
thicker
some
cards?
changes. Yeah, so, Yeah, definitely.
Hybrid cards? No, right?
Nah.
They separate the two?
Exactly.
Are you really
because there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this is what we offer on that side. You know what I mean?
And then I want to throw this on the whole Demetrious and Ben Askren thing. You know, it's funny. So when we talked about the fact that nobody has come out and said that, hey, we are getting rid of the flyweight division, but we had all been talking about it for a while here, right? And remember, one of the things that we threw out there was Pettis moving up to 135. And we were like, well, a flyweight moving up to bantamweight at the same time. But now put that back into the fact that, don't you think Pettis probably knew that Askren was going over and all, like he probably knew all that was happening behind the scenes? So that
because Askren said this has kind of been on ice for a few months.
Yeah. So I wonder if that factored into the decision too. Like, hey, it started heating up again. Askren knew that
start eating.
Exactly. Askren heard that or Pettis heard that Askren was going over. That Demetrious is leaving.
Who's his manager?
I'm out.
Pettis' manager, same.
Duke is a co-manager. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
I'm curious. Have you know? You and your fellow journos been poking away at the flyweights and their managers lately to see who knows what, shaking.
I'm telling you,
loose?
like, listen, man. Sources behind the scenes, you're talking to them, you're like, hey, I heard Demetrious is going. What's going on there? Yeah, it's probably gonna happen. Okay, cool. You know, and then all of a sudden you're like, also I heard that the flyweight division was going away. No text back. You know what I mean? Like everybody's talking, and then you bring that up, and it's like, no talking. So listen, I haven't heard that for sure that it's done, but man, I've heard that it's definitely on the table. And you just look at the writing on the wall. Sure, it does seem like there's not a lot of commitment to that division right now. As Marco said, only 4 fights booked, people moving up. You sent out, one of the most marketable guys. I understand he wasn't a big star, but you'd have to say he was one of the most marketable flyweights in Demetrious Johnson. So, I've said I don't like the idea of it, but if it does mean we get 165 at one point, I mean, I'd give up 125 to get 165 in the door. Unfortunately, I haven't heard that that's happening either. Dana always seems to shun it right away and just say, no, I'm not down.
Wanted to ask you guys something real fast. When I happened to click that Project Spearhead, and right when I clicked out, I noticed Lucas Middlebrook was the name that you would submit your authorization card anonymously. Was he the one guy that may have revealed some names that got Leslie in a little bit of hot water? Like a few of our homies, maybe the Diaz brothers, kind of started to pull back or something like that. Do you guys remember? It was about 3-4 years ago.
Remember that? I'd totally forgotten about that.
Was that the guy that may have accidentally slipped some names?
I don't think so.
I wonder if someone logs on there and goes, ooh, no, hold on a second. He can't keep a secret.
I don't think so.
If that's him, and if it's not, I apologize. That's
I don't believe so. I'm trying to remember now because I remember him always going out of his way to say, listen, I mean, he was the one that was sure to say, look, man.
But you remember someone slipped, right, and revealed some names?
I do.
Okay. That was one thing. And then go ahead and say what you were going to say. I just got quick things
here. I was going to say, with Demetrious and Cejudo, do you feel like, maybe on our side, there's a little unfinished business, but on Demetrious's, can he just look at it as, look, we fought twice, one was a split, one I finished you. I think I'm the winner here.
No, because the other guy can say, because see, that right there is an argument, but that's something you do with your homies, and you hope.
On his personal side. Though.
Yeah.
On his personal side, I think he could walk away going, dog, I finished you when we fought. When you fought, they weren't really sure, but they ended up going, all right, you won.
Yeah.
I think he could walk away. On our side, I think we feel like.
I think Cejudo's got enough artillery. I broke your streak. I sent you packing. You didn't want none. You ran away. Whatever.
In other words, what I'm saying is, do you think he cares?
No, because he's done so many great things that, yeah, you're right. The one loss is not going to pare him down at all.
It was Jeff Boris, by the way.
Yes. I remember there was a name that stood out because he's a former baseball guy.
That's right.
Big baseball agent guy.
He was the one that
slipped up, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, again, I asked. Mr. Middlebrook is watching. I didn't mean any disrespect. Dana's been very clear about if Floyd's going to I can't believe I'm saying it. If Floyd Mayweather is going to fight Khabib, it will be in the UFC. So, anything about Khabib going that way? Which leads me to any speculation on your guys' end as to what Ali's big news is that he has for Khabib. Some big monumental news is coming regarding Khabib. Could it just, I guessed, Tony in April, because we already did the math of a possible 6-month suspension.
But that's not mind-blowing, right?
Tony in April, and he said, Tony, he wrote me back.
Yeah.
Tony actually replied to him with just a picture of himself. But what else could it be if we had to just play that game?
When you think monumental, You got to throw out names like
action figures.
You're right. I realized that I didn't think that would fit his criteria, and I don't mean that against Tony. What I mean is I wrote Tony in Russia. I meant like a stadium show or something like that, which led me to that little daily debate. The little daily debate that I kind of threw out there. It's not today's question, but it just spawned some ideas. I got off easy on which one.
Because you were attached to that, that could have been a million tweets just over and over and over.
Oh.
But Tony actually played that one like, here's a picture of me. But normally Tony doesn't.
That's what I wrote though.
That type of stuff.
I thought maybe the UFC in Russia in a stadium or something big, because I know that the time difference is what hurts us. But I think Sweden is only one time zone over, and I believe those guys were marching in there at 5 a.m. to fight, right?
Oh, dude, it was brutal. Yeah, it was super late, and the air just came out of that building, dude. When Anthony Johnson knocked him out, it was just like, it's like all of a sudden the fact that it was 5.
But everybody was into it, or was brutal to stay up for everybody, or
no, it was. I mean, yeah, it's tiring, man. Those overnight shows are like, God, because you got to figure out what to do all week long. You're trying to do media obligations during normal times. It's weird, man. It's brutal. It's brutal.
All right. So Floyd, the invite is for Floyd to come to the UFC if he wants to fight Khabib.
Even if he did, there's no way it's under normal rules, right? It's going to be one of those that's got stipulations to it. Yeah.
All right. Last thing here, if we're talking trades, and the UFC was going to do one more, this guy won't shut up, and he keeps talking towards UFC fighters. Dylan Dennis. What does the UFC give Bellator for Dylan Dennis? Just so he can come over here and either do his thing, because they don't mind having Connor's homies around, or he just gets punished and sent back packing.
I don't think. Obviously,
submission grappling.
Obviously, I don't think this trade thing is becoming the norm. But let's say it was. I think they'd have to give way more than they'd want, because Dylan Dennis generates a lot of publicity for Bellator, man. Yeah. I mean, despite what his limited mixed martial arts accomplishments, man, he's got to be one of their biggest stars, at least in terms of discussion and public awareness. So if trades were more common, I think the asking price would be pretty large for Bellator, because he means a lot to them in terms of promotional awareness.
If you don't work for us and you work for Dana, and Dana says, get it done, that's your job today. You've seen Scott Coker's tweets, trades. So he's a little warm to it. He's willing to do it. Where do you open the negotiations, John Morgan? Or Dan Tom? Everybody.
I'll throw in two names. I say you give him Lobov and Punk. Punk for the
Lobov and Punk?
Yeah, Lobov and CM Punk. CM Punk for the, you get a firecracker for a firecracker, right? You get to light it off and watch and see what happens, and then the show's over. Yay. And then also you get the Conor McGregor connection, which is a good point, because, these guys like Charlie Ward or these other guys, they get a little bit of a role in Bellator. They'll pop up on these Dublin shows. They'll pop up in the UK market just because they're a friend or whatnot of Conor McGregor. And I know that's the criticism toward Lobov, fair or unfair, whatever you think, but that's a fair trade. I mean, Lobov, I don't know how much more time he's got in the UFC. Good. There you go.
It's actually pretty good. I mean,
Dylan Dennis is young,
right,
and he's moving needles over there. So, what do you think?
Maybe for the betterment of the sport, you give him Nick Diaz. You're like, hey, we can't get this son of a bitch to fight. Maybe you can.
Coker, yeah.
There we go. Yeah. We can't get him to work here.
But he is 35, and I think Dylan's probably young 20s, 24.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I'll tell you mine during the break.
Really?
Yeah, I think it takes some heat.
Nick Diaz is like that old wedding present you get, and you get caught repackaging it and gifting it back to the person who gave it to you years later.
I'm just thinking, who's on the outs right now with the UFC publicly? Is there anyone that...
I mean, Masvidal's never too happy. Who else?
Al Quinta always seems pissed.
Quinta for Dylan Dennis? That might be interesting, huh?
See that work?
Oh, all right. All right, guys. Let's take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. When we come back, we'll have back-to-back interviews with Amanda Cooper and Mark De La Rosa. I think De La Rosa is up on deck first, and then Cooper. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The Boston Red Sox are world champions for the 4th time in 14 years. Or, you could also say, for the 4th time in 102 years. They had one hell of a jinx, too. Relive MLB Network Radio's post-game show featuring interviews with World Series MVP Steve Pearce, Red Sox manager Alex Cora, and more. It's available anytime on the SiriusXM app. Just search keywords Clinch Show. Actually, it'd be 5 times in 102 years.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, because that was the last one. I think it was like 1926 or something. But got to give it up to him, man. 4 in 14 years. That's as impressive as the Giants. I think they had 3 in 5 years. All right, we struck out with Mark De La Rosa. I'm sending him a friendly text. Pick up the phone, idiot. But in the meantime, we can take your calls. 866-522-2846 if you'd like. Or Goes, throw out that topic you've been wanting to cover for so long.
All right,
while I do this.
Here we go. It's time for our favorite candies.
Okay.
Thought you had me there, huh?
All right.
You guys ready to make your list?
Yeah.
George, why don't you go first?
I'm sending to Mark De La Rosa.
I can start us out if you like. It's a simple list. I'm a simple guy. I don't have crazy tastes here. First of all, I just like a nice pack of Skittles. If I can get one of those little fun pack of Skittles, I like those. Now, if they're giving out the full size, even better. But Skittles, I like Twix. Simple.
Nice.
I like a good Twix, man.
Crossover.
I like kind of an old school, but Nestle Crunch. Not the Crackle. Not the Crackle.
Okay.
Nestle Crunch.
Okay.
Got to go with those. The blue ones, not the red ones.
Oh, yeah.
The blue ones.
I didn't even know there was a red one.
Yeah, see, Crackle is like a Hershey's ripoff version of Nestle Crunch.
The little guys,
Exactly.
Oh, man.
All right, and then here's where we go a little different. You don't see these very often in the Halloween candy, but I like a Rolo. A good Rolo.
Okay, I have never had a Rolo in my life. And they used to have commercials, but then they just went away, and they were just like, "Bitch, we're Rolo."
Get your
are
Rolo.
they really that good?
Throw them in the freezer. Throw the Rolos in the freezer. Let them get nice and firmed up there in the freezer. A Rolo. And then here's where I may go a little outside the realm, but hot tamales. I like hot tamales.
That's been given out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know
okay.
Not like actual like. You're not going up and trick-or-treating the tamale lady over there with her masa.
It came from the barrio or the hood. I thought maybe that's how they get down in Fort Worth or something.
Hola, señora. No, so candy hot tamales. And so that's my 5 right there.
Well, we said Fritz. I go, okay.
No, that's so good.
Maybe that's what they did.
Damn, he does live in the hood.
Yeah, just give you a little chili relleno along with that, man. That's good stuff. But this one now.
Sounds like it better be full size.
No beans and rice.
And then that's my top 5. But I will say that was when I was a kid. I don't know that this existed when I was a kid, but if it was these days, because I have taken some parent tax out of my kids.
Eli, watch out.
Hershey cookies and cream is solid.
Oh yeah, that's my
It's on my list.
Representing.
So there you go.
Goes.
Right. I went with Starburst.
Nice.
Lemon Heads.
Ooh.
Sprees.
Jeez, you're really going for all this sugar and tardiness, aren't you?
I am.
All sour.
Nerds.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And Kit Kat.
Ooh,
Had I thought of
random chocolate
Twix, I think I probably would have had to substitute.
Can't believe I left Starburst off my list too. I do like some Starburst.
Yeah, I love Star Wars and Skittles, but I didn't do revisionist history.
You want to go next? You went back clean up?
It's up to you, George. What do we got?
All right, mine's kind of. I mean, now we're getting to some of the ones that are pretty obvious. But I'm a big chocolate guy, so Snickers, Mars, the old Mars bar still stands to me as one of my favorites. But I think it's gone away. Honestly, I think homeboy from Victorville sent us a bunch. Remember?
Oh yeah.
John. Yeah. Kit Kat. Yeah, you just had that. I like that one too. And just I'm an M&M's guy, man. Give me either the peanut one or the little. Either one. I like them both.
Oh, you gotta like one.
But check it out. As a kid, I forgot I got a juice cup once. And I remember going, this hit the spot because I was kind of thirsty from walking around the neighborhood. But my dad one time said we ran out. I got some little Gatorades. So you know what? As an adult, if I were to go, I wouldn't mind a little Gatorade. But if not, just give me a little juice cup. Got to make sure it's cold, though.
Okay, got to make sure it's clean, too.
Those are my 5.
Nice. I'll go 5 to 1. Number 5, Almond Kiss, just because it's like a real non-committal candy, nice dark chocolate almond. It's like probably one of the healthier ones. You can just, it was always good as a kid, and now I appreciate more as an adult. Healthier
not
choice.
Almond Joy, it's Almond Kiss, like
the one with the almonds in it. Yeah, because because you're always gonna get a ton of kisses, and like maybe you don't want to commit to a big thing of candy. You can always just eat one, pop one on the go. Number 4 is Mr. Good Bar, because ironically, me being the only Asian on the panel, I couldn't figure out what the rice chocolate one was, but I actually like Crackle better, but I couldn't think of the name, so I put Mr. Good Bar.
I like Crackle too.
But Crackle's solid.
Crunch better.
I'm with John. My number 3 was not just Crunch. I get specific with the Crunch family. Cookies and cream specifically. That's number 1 on my list. Like I don't think I like cookies and cream anything else, but that Hershey's cookies and cream bar is so good. Number 2 is Twix for me. Yeah. I almost went with Kit Kat, maybe because we were in the early '90s, where the Kit Kat commercial was in its prime, right? Give me a break. Give me a break. The white guys working construction. You could tell the commercials were old by that. Dan, isn't racist list here? And number 1, Snickers, of course. Snickers. Can't go wrong with Snickers. Any size, I'll take it.
And check it out. As I get older, I got to reduce my portion size. Now you can just get those little mini Snickers. All right. Rather than feeling guilty about having the candy bar or whatever, or they come in 2. Next thing you know, you have to devour 2. They have these little mini Snickers, and so I bought those the other day. I put them, and between me, Juliet, my mom, and Ghost, because they were staying over, I think. Oh, I don't know if you did, but they were there. You just grab one. It's kind of like a little post dessert,
Yeah.
And it's just one bite, but you're good. But I think it's a good way to just, be able to still indulge without saying, hey, look, I had a whole bar, which obviously I got to cut down on that.
Nobody said Jolly Ranchers, huh?
Yeah, that's a surprising one. Wow,
I was about to. I couldn't remember those names. I was like, what the fuck are they called again?
But you know what? When I was a kid, though, I was like when they had Jolly Rancher, like the bar.
The stick, right?
Yeah, the stick.
Those are big,
Instead of like now, they just.
Yeah, and you bent it.
Yeah.
Kind of annoying, though. It was so big.
You didn't like it?
No, I just like the little guy. Because I don't know if I can have candy.
Mark is there?
My teeth are sensitive, so I don't know if I can have that much candy. So if I can just have a piece, I'm good.
Well, it was school. Everyone would trade little pieces. Like, I got sour apple. I got watermelon. Those. It was like it was like cigarettes in prison. What Jolly Ranchers were in grade school. Remember that, guys?
And you could turn them into a shank if you ate it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You really could, man. All right, Mark De La Rosa is ready to go. Again, he's one of the 2 fighters that are going to be on today's show that'll be fighting at the Denver card. That's UFC Fight Night 139, headlined by Yair Rodriguez and the Korean Zombie. He joins us now on the hotline. He'll be fighting Jordan Espinoza. What's up, Mark? DLR, how you doing?
Great, how are you?
Good, my man. Welcome to MMAjunkie Radio. Great to have you on the show here. You're on that historic 25-year card. I know you're a younger cat, but are you into history? Have you seen those early fights, that they'll be talking about? That's the first time Royce Gracie was introduced to our world.
Oh, yeah, that's how I first got started. My dad, I was born in 94, but once I was like a 3, 4, my dad used to watch us all the time growing up, and he was preaching it always great. That's actually what got me started in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no doubt. Have you gone back? They've never seen one. I think it was 1, 2, and I think they went back there again. Have you ever seen those events to see what the sport has become? I mean, it's historical and all, but it's a little bit. There's a little bit of comedy to it. You can obviously tell the techniques have definitely been modernized over the years.
Oh, yeah. Karate versus boxing versus kickboxing versus sumo versus everything.
Yeah. One of my favorite fighters from that era was Pat Smith. I thought he was the entertaining hothead back then. Everybody obviously talks about Royce Gracie, much respect, but Pat Smith was one of my favorites. Did you have a favorite fighter as you were growing up that you modeled yourself after?
Not that I've modeled her, but I've always looked at the Royce Gracie just from his past. My dad's a big fan of Royce Gracie, and like I said, he used to make me watch all the first UFC, the second UFC, all the beginning ones, and it was jiu-jitsu was winning everything, and that's what got me started in jiu-jitsu. Then jiu-jitsu got me started in MMA.
Right on, my man. All right, let me turn it over to the guys here. Goes, you go first. What you got from Mark De La Rosa?
Mark, now, if you look at your record, aside from the Tim Elliott fight, you would be an undefeated fighter. And I know some fighters say that those losses, they change them, but they change them in a good way. How do you look back at that fight, and how do you think your career would have been different had you not lost that fight?
I don't really like to think about stuff like that, but usually, I believe, growing up, so my beliefs, I just believe everything happens for a reason. When I took that fight, I took it on 10 days' notice. I was on the couch, had no training.
I didn't get any training for that fight. I was sick. I was in bed when I got the call on 10 days' notice. All my coaches were out of town. The holidays were coming up, so that for me to get ready for that fight, I wasn't training for it. I mean, that was my shot. That was my ticket to the UFC, and I was tired of fighting on these local scenes. So, I mean, I took my opportunity. I cut 26 pounds, 10 days. My body didn't recover. I didn't get to replenish the way I used to because it was 26 pounds in 10 days. It was a rough cut for me. And my body, it didn't perform. It didn't perform. No, don't take nothing away from Tim Elliott, but I would love to run that fight back. Because, I mean, I have no problem. I mean, that was my first loss, but I don't mind losing. I want to lose that me being 100%. That fight, I mean, I wasn't all there.
You're an exciting fighter to watch, not just because of the way you fight, but you get all these finishes. And what I've heard from fighters before is getting those finishes one after another can be almost addicting, almost to the point where if you get the victory and it's a decision, it doesn't feel the same. How do you feel in regards to getting finishes and keeping streaks like that alive?
I just like winning. I just love winning, whether it's decision, knockout, submission. I just like to win. Yes, it's exciting to get finishes, and it makes it easier for me to get booked. So it makes people want to see you because you're getting finishes. But I mean, I'm addicted to winning. I love to win. I want to win.
All right, our fight analyst has something for you. Dan, Tom, what do you have for Mark De La Rosa? Excuse me.
Hey, Mark, I was watching your breakdown earlier of your tornado toss. I'm a fan of triangle defense, so I really appreciated that. But it occurred to me while watching that, on your UFC profile, it also says you've been, teaching jiu-jitsu, obviously your black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, since you were 15. So I guess that's not too much of a surprise. So I guess my question for you, do you find that teaching, not just teaching, but teaching at that young of an age and kind of coming up with that mindset, how has that helped you, now that you're in the big leagues of the UFC, obviously?
It's helped me a lot. Not even just in the big league. It helped me. Growing up as a kid, I was an overweight kid. I think when I was like 12 years old, I was 200 pounds. And I'm short, so I was a short, fat kid. So jiu-jitsu changed my life. I mean, it helped me lose weight. And I started doing boxing and everything, stuff like that. But by teaching kids jiu-jitsu, my coaches in River Oaks at Genesis Jiu-Jitsu, they gave me the platform to start teaching. It helped me be a better public speaker, talk in front of crowds. It helped me with my own technique because whenever you show an armbar, you can't just show it. I mean, you got to make sure you have a good understanding because you're going to get 10, 20 different questions from different students, different people, and some of the questions are good, some of them are bad. You always got to be able to answer every question.
What's an example of a bad question?
There's no such thing as a bad question.
Oh, you just said some are good, some are bad. So I thought you might remember one that had you shaking your head a little.
Yeah, you're
good. All right. Do you, I see Jordan Espinosa's 13-5 overall. 2 of his losses have come via submission. When you first get the announcement, do you start zeroing in on where's he weak and where I'm strong? How do you approach your game planning?
I'm gonna try to go out there and be exciting. He's got good stand-up, he's got good wrestling, he's got a sneaky darts choke. He's got a lot of buzz from the contender series and stuff. So I'm looking forward to go out there and shutting all that down and taking all his hype.
How much do you partake in all that? Is that something you'd rather your coaches do, or is that something you like to be involved in?
I like being involved in everything. My coaches break it down for me, and as far as like breaking down what combos and what's going to be open. But as far as for me, I'll just watch and see what are his go-tos, what are his kill moves, what are his good positions. I'll watch video and see what he does good and what he does best, and I'll find training partners that have that same style that can execute the same as he can, if not better, and I'll just try to break it. I'll try to break what they're good at, or what he's good at, or what I think he's going to do.
Have you fought at altitude before, Mark?
Yes. Well, I fought in Mexico City twice, and I always do my fight camps in Denver at Factory X.
Oh, okay. Well, you got that solved then, because it's out there for sure. A lot of fighters don't believe in it, and they don't believe in adapting to it. But I've seen it haunt quite a few over the years, so I'm glad you got that one done. All right, Mark. Well, listen, thank you for joining us on today's show. We really appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of your camp, and we'll definitely be tuning in to that historic 25th year anniversary show in Denver, Colorado, UFC Fight Night 139, and obviously your fight versus Jordan Espinosa to lead things off. Can't wait for that whole event. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. All right, there you have it. That's one of two. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to ABC. 1, 2, 3. Amanda Cooper. She'll be our guest on MMA Junkie Radio.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Get the radio channel numbers and a link to listen to your favorite NFL, college football, NBA, or NHL team sent right to your smart device. Just go to SiriusXMs.com/sports today and click Add to My Calendar. Big thanks to Mark De La Rosa for his time. Bumblebee will be fighting Jordan Espinoza at UFC Fight Night 139. Takes place on November 10th. It's the 25th anniversary show for the UFC. Back to their original location of where they had UFC 1 in Denver, Colorado. This one's in the Pepsi Center, and it's headlined by Chan Sung Jung, a.k.a. the Korean Zombie, versus Yair Rodriguez. The fight card can be seen on Fox Sports 1 starting at 8 p.m. Eastern start time. There's 10 fights headed your way, and then they got a couple on the UFC Fight Pass. That starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. All right, joining us now on the hotline is our next guest. She'll be fighting Ashley Yoder on these Fox Sports 1 broadcasts. Her name is Amanda Cooper. She joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. We're talking candy over here because tomorrow's Halloween, and, of course, none of us are grown up. We're all still very juvenile over here. But so I want to pose the same question to you. What's your favorite candy as a kid when you went trick-or-treating?
I mean, as a kid, it's still got to be my favorite. I would say that Reese's were my favorite. And now I'm not a big peanut butter fan, so I'm kind of sad.
How did we not think of that?
Yeah, we covered a lot. We didn't get that one.
We did 20 of them. And we
you didn't
get
say Reese's?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's really depressing.
What else? Give me one more.
I feel like that was that's
the
like
mic
high
drop?
quality. You know, like what?
Well, was that your mic drop, or did you have another one?
Oh no, Snickers and Reese's.
Yeah, that's a pretty popular one.
Those were high quality ones. They weren't like the normal Tootsie Roll or Jolly Ranch. You know, I was excited. I was like, oh, cool, Reese's.
You said you don't go down the route of peanut butter anymore. Is that like an allergy now, or?
Oh no, I just not a big fan of it anymore. I don't know. I just don't crave it, or I don't really care for peanut butter as much anymore. Every 7 years, your taste buds change.
Gotcha. All right. So you'll be fighting at the historical UFC Fight Night 139 card. 25 years ago, from close to the date of that night is when the UFC first started. What's your? I mean, you were only 2 years old when the event happened, but do you remember like the first event that you ever that caught your attention when you were growing up, and what particular fighter maybe?
I didn't really. I was a boxer, so I didn't watch a ton of MMA at all. I didn't watch UFC until I was working at a bar when I was like 17 or 18. I started then every like 6 months there would be one UFC event on, and I remember it being huge. But I was working at a bar knowing that was like a big night for our bar. But and that was back when I feel like they had them like once every 6 months, and now they're 1 or 2 times a weekend. So I didn't watch a ton of MMA when I was growing up, just boxing.
Mm-hmm. And when you did see MMA, had the females started fighting yet? Was that like the Gina Carano era, or when abouts was that?
That was. Let's see. I don't think that I was watching too many women. I remember hearing about Gina Carano, but I never watched her fight. Mm-hmm. I noticed. I mean, obviously, I was coming into MMA when Ronda Rousey was getting into it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Goes. What do you have for Amanda Cooper?
Amanda, I know you train 6 days a week. You have 1 day off. When you have that 1 day off, I see how focused you are on your social media, on your opponent. Are you able to disconnect on that day, or is it just kind of a lighter day for you?
No, I disconnect completely. Yep. I just really try to, maybe catch up on some priorities. Like, I don't do anything. I don't go out too much. I don't go see my family or just spend the day with my boyfriend and my dogs. I definitely feel like I do a really good job at disconnecting from the fight and the training. I still know that, like, I want the day off, so I want to rest, and, like, be in a hot tub or something like that. But it is my recovery day. It's not just a day to forget about the fight. It's a day to recover. So I'm, like, getting a massage or doing the things that I want to do to recover and take care of my body. But I do feel like I do a very good job at disconnecting and keeping myself busy. And anytime I think about the fight, I just push it off and say that's tomorrow. I'll think about that when I'm not training, because I definitely feel like it's a good thing to just disconnect for one whole day.
When you break down Ashley and her skill set, how does it stand up versus some of your previous opponents?
Ashley's a southpaw, and she's really tall and lanky, which is, I think I'm going to have a better advantage than any of her other opponents, just from all the years of striking and all the years of boxing. I faced a lot of southpaws. I faced a lot of taller girls being so short, and I just feel like I'm good at getting into the inside and good at knowing how the footwork game works against the southpaw, and I just feel like I have a better advantage fighting someone as a southpaw than she would have faced previously in other matchups. I've studied her because she was in the house. I thought I'd have to fight her then. And then after the house, I just knew that this was going to be an opponent of mine eventually down the road. So I feel like I've done a lot of my research and a lot of game planning already.
Amanda can be followed on Twitter at ABCNation115. Again, she'll be fighting Ashley Yoder at UFC Fight Night 139 on November 10th. All right, let's turn it over to our fight analyst, Dan. Dan, what do you have for Amanda Cooper?
I just kind of wanted to follow up, as far as you're talking about people, but as well as dogs. I was scrimming through your Instagram there, Amanda, and you actually recently got a second dog there, and I'm in a similar position. I definitely want to get my dog some company. But you say something important in that post. I want to tie in here. You say, dogs need dogs, but people need people. Now, obviously, you touched on your boyfriend who also trains and competes. We just interviewed a fighter who, Mark De La Rosa, who him and his significant other are also in the same business. Has that been able to help? You mentioned you're able to stay much more focused and much more grounded. You're able to separate the fight life. Has that been a big key?
Yeah, I think I've dated my coach in the past, and that was really stressful, and it was hard on me. It was just so much training and so much, like, every day it was a business. It was more business. We always, like, what can we do to improve? Where can I go? How can I get better? And that's the way it is now, but it's a little bit more relaxed. It's like our journey together, me and my boyfriend now that we both train and both fight. Like, when he wins, I win. When I win, he wins. And I feel like it's more shared as opposed to the previous relationship I had where it was too stressful and it became more business than personal. And I definitely think that the relationship that I'm in now, having someone there to, my favorite part of the day is when we train really hard, and at the end of the night we get in the same car and drive home and we just talk about our training. He'll tell me, man, you look so good tonight, you're so fast, like, blah, 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 and I'll tell him, like, how much he's improving, and that part of the day where we can just both build each other up and tell each other, what we've done well and what the next step is really important. And I definitely think it would be, really hard on me if I didn't have someone that wasn't in the same sport as me.
Amanda, I also heard from another couple that one thing that helped them was when they left the training room, they stopped talking MMA. How about for you? You shared with us that on the ride home, you'll have a little bit of an exchange and talk about the training session. But does it shut down then, or do you guys still continue talking even when you're way outside the gym, having dinner, walking the dog, whatever?
We actually do a really good job, and I don't really know what to tell you, just ask me that question, but I do think we do shut it off when we're done. We'll talk about it in the car. That's like my favorite part of the day. You're exhausted, you're tired, you talk about it. Then we go home and we do the things that we want to do. We watch the TV show we want to watch. We cook the food. We cook dinner together. We talk about that. We own a house together, so we're, hey, you do the dishes, I'll do the laundry. Like, we do make it a separate part of our life. Like, we have a training side, and we have a actual relationship, and I think that is what's going to prolong and keep the relationship as good as it is.
When you guys watch fights and the fights are close, are you on the same side as far as scoring it, or do you look at each other and go, oh, wow, I had the other person?
It's crazy because I love stand-up, and I'm favor that, and he favors wrestling because with his wrestling background, and so I thought for sure we would argue a lot more, like if a guy got a takedown and, he's just laying on him, I thought he'd be like, well, he's winning the fight because he's favored to wrestling, but actually he does the opposite. He's like, he's not even doing anything with his wrestling. Spin him back up. He shouldn't have won that. He is pretty smart with scoring, I think, and he sees how fights go, and we actually agree with a lot of stuff. I think the most recent argument we had was the Khabib-McGregor fight where the first round Khabib took him down and kind of, continued to pull him down and held him and didn't do much ground and pound, and there wasn't a whole lot going on, and he was saying how boring it was and that he shouldn't have won that round. And I was saying he did what he had to do. It's hard to hold someone down at a top level. At that high level, it's hard to keep him down with that. It takes technique. It takes get the position, then you can ground and pound, get the position, then you can ground and pound, Right. We had that little, dispute, but most of it were on the same side.
Interesting. All right. Well, hey, thanks for spending some time with us on today's show. Whatever's left of camp, I hope you have a safe camp and safe travels to Denver, Colorado for UFC Fight Night 139. So always appreciate having you on the show, Amanda.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the interview.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. There you have it, folks. Follow her on Twitter at ABCNation115. And both of those come courtesy of Oren Hodak. Why don't you give him a shout-out?
Hello, Oren.
There you go. Thank you very much for lining up De La Rosa and Cooper for us. Do you guys have a favorite fighter from UFC 1 or 2, those shows in Denver? Because they went back-to-back in Denver. And, I know Gracie's obviously the easy one. So give me 2 or 3. I already revealed one of mine. Patrick Smith, I just like this style. I've always been a heel guy for pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I was just – it seemed like he was a local guy, so I wanted him to do well. But do you guys remember any other names?
Gerard Gordeau.
I liked Gordeau number 1.
He was a stud.
If we're talking about fights that happened in Denver?
Yeah, the 1 and 2, they were both in Denver.
The 1 and 2, I mean, as far as those, yeah, you guys nail it. But as far as my favorite cards ever, mine actually goes to a fight night card. UFC, I always talk about UFC Fight Night 13, one of my favorite cards ever UFC put on. And That was another Denver card. Denver's also had fun cards there.
Was that Florian and Lausanne by any chance?
Florian Lausanne, that's right.
Oh, was?
Oh, that was one of the first ones where
Diaz
everybody was like
flipping the bird.
High altitude.
High altitude. A lot of people were
Rumble Johnson knocking out Tommy Spear.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
That was the rape choke one where Rogan says that. A lot of things happened in that card.
Tommy Spear got cut like relatively quickly, right? And he was the runner-up.
Yeah, he was Matt Hughes' boy.
He was going to be Matt Hughes 2.0 or something, right?
Yep.
A wrestler, strong dude.
Scary knockout.
Country guy. Yeah, all right. Let's finish up here with the daily debate, guys. You all ready to go?
Yep.
All right, let's do it then. So the question for today is, which UFC champion is most at risk of losing their title before this year is over? So we just have a few months here before 2018 is over. Cormier at UFC 230, Holloway at UFC 231, or Cyborg at UFC 232. And for those that love the nitpick, remember the flyweight title with Valentina fighting Joanna, it's vacant, so there can't be a loss of a title there. And Amanda's not putting up her bantamweight title. She will be challenging Cyborg. So that's why the question's phrased that way. You do have a fourth choice, which is they all retain. Let's start with you, John.
Man, it's a good question. I think that I would have to say the one that is the most at risk is Max Holloway. I love that fight with Brian Ortega, and I think that's a phenomenal fight between two elite-level athletes at the top of their game, young guys. And Ortega has just shown a way to win fights, man, even when he's losing, And look, I'm not going to lie. I still worry about Holloway a little bit. He's come out and said he's good, but I just worry a little bit. So I would say that's the most at risk. I mean, look, Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, come on, man. He can knock out anybody, but you got to think Cormier is the better fighter out of the two, the more well-rounded fighter. I think even Derek Lewis would admit that. And Cyborg, to me, Cyborg is just Cyborg, even against Amanda Nunes. So I'll say Holloway.
All right, how about you, Dan?
This is a tough one. I think statistics say one of them's got to lose, right? No matter what time of the year, no matter what champion. We just have 3 champions. Statistics say one's got to lose. I imagine the public's going to be pretty far on one side, and I'll probably be on that. I'll probably say Holloway just because if we're talking about a skill versus skills match. But I will say, not only is heavyweight crazy, but I will say the Cyborg Nunes fight I think is a lot more closer than people are going to be giving credit to. So.
I'll go with that one too because I thought it'd be a little bit more popular, but when I reveal the results, you'll see that I'm in last place here. I also think Amanda's got some pop to her strikes. Yeah. I've seen Cyborg in another sport get taken out that way. Look, Cyborg's a beast, but she's fighting another girl that's been a beast. She's been on quite a run. So I went with that one. But God, you're right. The intangible of not knowing what Holloway is going to happen. Or what's going to happen with Holloway, skill for skill. It'll be interesting to see. Ortega's never lost. But I'm just going to stick with what I originally pressed this morning, and it was Nunes over Cyborg. How about you guys?
I thought I was going to shock everyone. I was going to do the same thing, but apparently we're all on that same train. I think the Cyborg fight, I think she's going to see something that she really hasn't seen, that type of pressure from a fighter. I think it could maybe surprise her, where the other two, I think they've seen that at some point. But if I had to pick a second one, it'd definitely be that Holloway one.
Yeah. If we rephrased it as best Holloway versus best Ortega, does it change for anyone?
No. To be honest with you,
no.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, here's the results. 65% went with Holloway at UFC 231. 15% said all 3 retain. 13% said Cormier at UFC 230. And 7% said Cyborg at UFC 232. 1,486 votes came in. So thank you, Junkie Nation, our readers and listeners, for participating. But yeah, 65% think Holloway is primed to lose his title at UFC 231. And I wonder if that'll fluctuate the line. I don't know that I've seen a current line. Let me see if I can pull one up. We got a couple minutes here.
I'm sure
there's got to be one out there.
We got to do some kind of bet or something and just have everyone pick one and see what happens.
Well, I took what was considered the longest of all the if you want to call them long shots, but you were co-signing. Dan says he's got a little bit of a belief in it. I mean, to fight Cyborg, the first thing you got to do is not be scared. I feel like a lot of them is just like dead man walking in, or woman walking in. And here you have a confident fighter who's played the mind game. No, you wait for me. No, I'm not ready. You know what I mean? And they tried to go the route of Brazil, but Brazil, it don't happen. No, it happens in my book. I don't know, man. I think she's got to have her hands full. And every single great fighter finally either gets tested or beaten. We just talked about it with Cejudo and Johnson. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it was a question. I feel like there's a possibility there. As far as the line, it is right now minus 130 to plus 110. Holloway's still your favorite. All right, guys. Great show. Thanks, John, for stopping by. And thank you to Mark De La Rosa and Amanda Cooper for their time. We are out of here. Tomorrow we'll be back, and we have Jade Bryce and Mercedes Terrell. Probably have another guest or two. So keep it locked on MMA Junkie throughout the day. And we're out of here. Folks, go out there and be a champion.